everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast with our complete recap from here in Lumen Field in Seattle, where tonight's preseason contest, ended in a tie. It was exactly what you expect to see from a preseason game. In fairness, you don't ever want to see it. It was sloppy. There was a lot of penalties. We're going to break it down. There was some good, there was some bad, and there was some, quite frankly, ugly. Let's start by what I thought was the most concerning thing of the night was Aiden O'Connell's first half performance. It was very, very bad. It was ugly. And I'm not trying to pick on Aiden. Everybody knows I like him. But the truth of the matter is he wasn't going against all of Seattle's ones. He had 2 interceptions. You've heard me talk all last season, and you've heard me talk since they signed Geno Smith. How many times did you see Trey Tucker last year broke open because of his speed, and he had to wait for the ball, and either it got, knocked down because he had to stop, whatever. Again, big throw tonight to Dante Thornton, and he just didn't have the arm strength, underthrew it, and got picked off. Then he got baited into another interception. Now, coming out in the second half, level of competition was not as strong, but he did look very well. Now, that's not true. He looked much better. Um, uh, and so it was what it is. And you got to call a spade a spade. That's just not somebody's character. It's just the fact of the matter is that in the first half he did not look good. I thought he looked fine in the second half. Now, I'm going to defend Aiden with 1 point. If we were in the regular season and they were asking him to make that throw, that interception would not have been on Aiden O'Connell. It would have been on Chip Kelly for asking a quarterback to do something that he has ample evidence that he can't. Okay, we just have to accept the fact, whether you want to or not, until Aiden proves he can throw guys open like Geno down with the deep ball, you take the deep ball out of his repertoire. The problem is that when you're the Raiders and you have guys on this team with speed that can go do those routes, that's very difficult to do. But it is the reality. The other thing that was extremely ugly, because I'm talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and Aiden's first half performance was ugly, was Alex Bachman with a non-contact injury towards the end of the first half. And I talked to Pete Carroll about that. The video is already up. You can go watch it. But Pete said he had hurt his ankle earlier in camp, and that he was fine and back. He could have come back and played. So that, although it looked ugly at the time, it was not. It was not as bad as it looked, and Pete Carroll put that to rest. Some other things I wanted to talk about. Isaiah Palomao, who you guys may remember when they signed him as a UDFA, I told you this is a guy that looked the part, had some development to do, but he certainly was a guy that flashed that he belonged. Then last year he really stepped up. I believe, not this year, but I believe next year he's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. He had a big interception tonight. That was a big, big play on his part. I thought he looked really good. I thought the rookie offensive lineman, Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, both struggled. There was an Ashton Genty play early where Ashton got shut down. It was just a mistake by a rookie offensive lineman. The Raiders' offensive line did not look great tonight, did not look terrible when you took the rookies out of the equation. But remember, it's just not. I saw a lot of comments on Twitter, but you have to remember, it's just not commenting about the offensive line. It's who's in there. You got to look. There was one play, and there was guys that aren't going to make this team out there. So you have to look at everything, not just in totality, but you have to look at it under the microscope. What are you looking at? I think that's important. I think Jonah Lalu, struggled, had some penalties. That was disappointing. AJ Cole looks like AJ Cole of midseason. I mean, just booting the ball wherever he wanted to put it. JJ Pegues, I thought had a very good day. Not a great one, but I thought he had a good one, and he's a rookie. So I guess I do think he had a really, really good day. Overall, rookies are going to play like rookies. So y'all know with me, I give a certain vast amount of room for rookies with grace. Higher the draft pick, the bigger my expectations. I will tell you, I didn't have huge expectations for Ashton Ginty tonight, um, and they weren't. There was really nothing there. The problem is you have to look behind at the offensive line he was running behind and look at some of the reasons why, and there were some rookie mistakes. Let's break this down a little bit. Dylan, so let's talk about a guy that I thought. So coming into um uh this season, I thought Dylan Labe was going to be in the outside looking in. And y'all know I like him. I mean, my mother has his jersey because she's from New England. But I love the kid, just a great kid. But they picked Tommy Mellett because they thought he could be a Julian Edelman type. He hasn't really flashed, but Dylan Labe has. Dylan Labe had a great game tonight. There was one mistake in the special teams on a kick return where he goes upfield to block, and Mellett was a little wondering what to do, and the ball went over his head. But that's not, you don't hold that against Tommy. Rookies make rookie mistakes. We certainly know Dylan did, but so I'm not, again, and he's making the transition from FCS. But Dylan Labe looked terrific tonight. Let's just talk about him real quick. Dylan Labe had a touchdown, but he had 5 runs for 34 yards. Good for him. And then in the receiving, I'm trying to grab it here real quick. He had 2 receptions. Hang on, I'm double checking this. Yeah, he had 1 reception for 6 yards, but he also had a touchdown. Punt returns, he had 2 for 20, and no kickoff returns. Geno Smith just in there basically for a cup of coffee. But Cam Miller, now you have to understand, he played the fourth quarter. And just in case you're wondering, Aiden did come back in the third quarter, like I said, and played better. But Cam Miller, and you have to understand, look at the level of competition he was playing. But regardless, he was 6 of 7, 76 yards, and really had a couple of touchdown drives. Cam Miller looked really, really good. And it's quite frankly the best I've seen him play since he's been a Raider. Not even close. The best. And again, on a stage where, okay, he was playing against some guys that aren't going to be in the National Football League in a few weeks, but he was playing against guys who were. And afterwards in the locker room, he talked about, he had never had to go silent count before ever coming from FCS. He had to tonight. Welcome to Lumen Field. We'll break down the game a little bit. There were 21 first downs for the Raiders, 23 for the Hawks. Raiders 16 by passing, 4 by rushing. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to tell you what I thought was brutal was 10 penalties. Brutally bad. Brutally bad. But first game of the preseason, I can live with it. I can live with that first game of the. These are things that happen first game of the preseason. So to me, that was not a big deal. But what was a big deal is they gave 3 first downs by penalty to the Seahawks. You just can't do that stuff. And it was disappointing, to say the least. To absolutely say the least. It was disappointing. Let's talk about some guys that I think that some things I think will interest you because I'm trying to give you a recap and then I'm going to get into some more stuff. Um, uh, I thought Barrett, he had 5 tackles. Lindbergh had 4. Jones had 4. Clark had 3. Good job there by Hudson Clark. Again, you're seeing a lot of names here who are guys you haven't heard a whole lot about because that's what happens in the preseason. You're trying to give those. I'll tell you what, I love second, third, and fourth quarters in preseason games because you're seeing a lot of young guys fighting to make the roster. I'll never forget one time, Mike Marks, I think, was the one that told me this, but he talked about even though they may be going against a bunch of guys that aren't going to be in the NFL in a couple weeks, it's still the bright lights in the crowd. How are they going to respond? And again, I thought guys did respond. Let's talk about Cam Miller. Again, 6 of 7. And, led 2 scoring drives. And I thought he was really good, really good. So let's come away from this. If this was a regular season game, I would be very critical of Chip Kelly for asking Aiden O'Connell to do something that he hasn't demonstrated he can do. But I'm not critical of Chip because Chip needs to have him show him. So I'm not critical at all of it. But if this was the regular season, Chip would have been calling plays. Now you can find Aiden's sweet spot in that 20, 25 yard range, 30 yards maybe. And there's plenty enough receivers on this team to make that happen. And if they're sold that he is their backup guy, then you just know your play calling alters a little bit when you go to him. But I didn't see anything tonight from the coaching staff that concerned me at all. I saw some people talking about, this team sucks, this team's terrible. And again, you're certainly welcome to any opinion. I'm not going to tell you can't, but it's not my job to be a cheerleader or a fan. But it is my job after decades of doing this to remind you this looked like what preseason games look like. This isn't the NFL of old where they're doing 2 and 3 a days, where they've been practicing for 6 or 8 weeks, beating each other up, and they're no, these are limited practices, a lot of breaks. This isn't the old NFL. It's why now in the new NFL, even the first couple weeks of the season look sloppy. But it is what it is. I think a couple things really stood out with me today. Very big things. Number one was to have seen Cam Miller, and I understand that the level of competition he was playing against. Okay, I get that. But it's pretty close to the level of competition in some reps he's been getting at Raider camp. And I've told you at Raider camp, like the other day, I told you I thought he had his best day. But what I would say to you is I was impressed with Cam Miller tonight. It is the best I've seen him play since he got here throughout OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Tonight, I've told you from the ankles up, he looks like an NFL quarterback. Obviously, it's what Tom Brady liked about him. John Spytek's got into detail on that. But he had the big lights were on, and it wasn't too big of a stage for him. Now, let's not pretend. He's got a long way to go. But quite frankly, I thought he played really well. Okay? I thought some other guys. I thought Laki Tassi, I'm going to talk to Pete Carroll about him tomorrow. After Pete had a chance to watch the film, I thought Laki Tassi first real game with his size looked very good. Very good. Now, understand that is within the context of he's a guy that's never played American football before. Okay? But he looked tonight the best I've seen him play. The best I have seen him play. I thought Dante Thornton got open whenever he wanted. And remember, he's a starter. And this guy played against good Seahawks players. And I'm telling you, he looked the part. It was impressive. Very impressive. I'm going to tell you another thing. I was surprised at Chip Kelly's play calling tonight. There were some things he's shown that I did not expect to see until in New England. So that tells me one of two things. Either he won't use them in this season, but he wants to make teams game plan for him, or it's so critical to his offense that he felt like I know I'm going to show it, but I'm going to show it after play one in the first game, so I might as well just show it now and get my guys practice, give them live reps. Because you have to remember something. Next week, San Francisco comes in to do joint practices. So San Francisco is going to tell all of their friends anything new they noticed from the Raiders. And he probably thought, okay, it's going to get out there, so I'm just going to do it. But I thought if you were watching this game analytically tonight, you could see some things that we've been talking to you and hinting at you that the Raiders did. I didn't see, they were completely vanilla on defense. But there was some creativity on offense. I think the other thing that really stood out is Pete Carroll has been preaching to this team, compete, compete, compete. And what did they do? They competed right through the end, and the game ended up in a tie. Who cares? They don't even do overtime in preseason games because they don't matter. They matter as far as reps, but they don't matter, so you move on. Again, the Raiders seem to have come out of this pretty healthy. The Bachman injury, I told you, I asked Pete about. You can go watch that video. And a couple other things that stood out to me. I thought rookies are gonna make rookie mistakes. So I wasn't upset with Charles Grant, but I've been telling you all camp. You can see why they like him, but he's not ready. I've been telling you all along. I expect Caleb Rogers to be ready to compete for a starter's job next year, but he isn't ready right now. Okay, Laki Tassi. I thought Laki Tassi looked really good, but he's not ready to be an NFL lineman right now. And so when you understand rookies, okay, Ashton didn't really get a whole lot of chances, and nor should he have. Okay, but so I wasn't worried about him. Again, Dante does what Dante wants. Kadir Ismail, I thought, looked good. I thought Ian Thomas looked good. I thought Carter Runyon did some things good. Didn't need to see anything from Brock and Michael, and we didn't. And I just think overall this was a sloppy game, but it was exactly what you expect in that realm. Doesn't mean you like it, but it also doesn't mean you don't expect it. Okay, I love being a dad. And, when you have a baby, you expect there's going to be dirty diapers. Don't have to like it, but you expect it. This is what preseason games look at. And so I understand, and I say this every single year, you see a lot of overreaction. That's fine, but tap the brakes. And we get to week one and there's double-digit penalties, we'll be screaming. You get to week one and Aiden O'Connell is asked to throw a deep ball, I'm going to be super critical. You get to week one and you see some key guys making some mistakes, you're going to be much more critical than I am. But having not played a competitive football game, if they're a veteran, having not played a competitive football game in 8 months, and if they're a rookie, could be even longer than that, There's going to be that. So avoid overreaction. And I tell you this every year, and I'll tell you next year. Just avoid overreaction. Don't get overhyped. Don't get over discouraged. I saw some people saying, "Oh, same crappy team." Okay, you're certainly entitled to that opinion, and they may be. But there were things here tonight that have been better than what I've seen in practices, and there were things here tonight that I saw that were worse. The most important part of the season is coming up next week when San Francisco comes to town. That joint practice against the San Francisco 49ers is going to be the most important practice or game or anything else of the entire preseason. That is going to be enormous because they're going to go live, they're going to go goods on good, and it is going to be a show. So there you go. Again, I like the competitiveness. I thought the rookies, I counted 20. I stopped counting at 20 rookies that played. One of my colleagues said there were 22. I stopped counting at 20. That's a humongous deal. That is an enormous deal. And if you're looking for positives out of this, over 20 rookies played. If you're looking for positives out of this, look at how some of the rookies played. And for even those that played bad, they're rookies. I mean, Cam Miller said this in the locker room, and I thought it was hilarious. He has never used a silent snap count in his entire career. I mean, he played in FCS, where there's just not the crowds like there is in the NFL. But even for a preseason game, it's so loud. It's just a new thing. So again, I thought there were some things here the Raiders can build on. If they're this sloppy next week, that would be concerning to me. Maybe not, because having had a joint practice, they may not play a lot of these guys next week. I don't know. So if they play the exact same guys, the exact same amount of time, and the game looks like this next week, I would be greatly concerned. And we'll just hold judgment on that till next week. But overall, it's pretty much what I expected. I mean, sure, did I think maybe other players would have played? Aiden has played so much better in preseason. I thought he would have played better. I was genuinely, because of how he's played this camp, had higher expectations of Aiden, and he didn't deliver. Again, no disappointment with the coaching staff. So it is what it is. They move on now. Again, monster week coming with that practice with the San Francisco 49ers. Thanks everybody for joining me. We'll see you all again real soon.